The same Peugeot that received accolades in Europe, the same innovation that attracted attention on the Champs-Élysées, was mocked on American highways. Not even 10 years could be spent here. Why then did the characteristics that made French automobiles so popular abroad collapse so spectacularly in the United States? Let's investigate. The first attempts. French automakers set out to conquer the world's biggest auto market when they crossed the Atlantic in the mid-20th century. They were giants at home in Europe, celebrated for their engineering, design, and the distinctive fusion of art and technology that defined French automobiles. But in America, the story took a very different turn. They felt alien, out of place. People looked at them with suspicion. In truth, America simply wasn't ready for what the French were offering. Take the Citroën DS. With its futuristic design and high-drop pneumatic suspension that allowed it to glide over roads like a cloud, it was called the most advanced car in the world when it debuted in 1955. In Europe, it was a masterpiece. In America, that same technology looked strange and frightening, unrepairable. And that's where the story ended, because no matter how advanced a car is, it's useless if it can't be fixed. American mechanics, raised on the simplicity of large, burbling V8 engines, had no idea how to service something so complex. With models like the Peugeot 403 and Peugeot 504, Peugeot had slightly more success. These cars built a small but loyal following among buyers who appreciated French-build quality and understated design. Peugeot never tried to challenge Detroit directly. Instead, it stayed in its own niche. Even the famous TV detective Columbo drove a battered old Peugeot 403, giving the brand a certain credibility. It wasn't a huge success, but it wasn't a complete failure either. Then came the Renault Dauphine. This was the disaster. The Dauphine, a small rear-engine car designed for Europe's narrow streets, permanently damaged the reputation of French cars in America. It was completely out of its depth on American highways and long-distance roads. It rusted quickly. Reliability problems became legendary. The underpowered engine struggled constantly. The Dauphine soon earned a reputation as one of the worst cars ever sold in the United States. It became a warning sign. You cannot introduce a product that does not fit the market. Technical and practical problems. The Renault Dauphine wasn't an isolated case. The real problem was that French cars were simply not designed for American consumers. In Europe, they were praised as innovative and comfortable. In America, that same complexity meant fragile electronics, hydraulic systems, and frequent breakdowns. At the same time, the Japanese were entering the market with a completely different philosophy. Honda, Toyota, and Datsun focused on simplicity, strong transmissions, small but durable engines. Their cars were easy to understand, easy to repair, and, most importantly, reliable. To match that level of dependability, French manufacturers would have needed to rethink their entire design philosophy. They refused. After-sales service made things worse. Breakdowns are frustrating anywhere, but in America, they became nightmares. French dealer networks were small and scattered. This created two major problems. Spare parts were expensive, heavy, and hard to find. Very few mechanics knew how to work on these cars. Japanese brands, by contrast, invested heavily in dealership networks and technician training. Customers knew help was always nearby. That difference proved decisive. Then came regulations. Meeting U.S. safety and emissions standards required expensive modifications. In some cases, like the Citroën SM, the cost of compliance was so high that the car couldn't be sold at all. With already low sales, the math simply didn't work. Why did the Japanese succeed while the French failed? Because understanding the American consumer mattered more than building the most advanced car. The French designed with passion. The Japanese planned with precision. Their timing was perfect. When the oil crisis hit in 1973, fuel-hungry V8s became liabilities. Japanese brands were ready with efficient, affordable, dependable cars. For the French, It wasn't just a technical problem, it was a cultural mismatch. In Europe, reliability meant a car that could be repaired easily and cheaply. In America, reliability meant a car that didn't break at all. With limited service options, every failure felt catastrophic. That perception stuck. A joke from the 1970s summed it up perfectly. The French make great wine, but terrible cars. Attempts to team up with America. Despite the ridicule, French manufacturers didn't give up. Renault tried again in the 1980s with the Renault Le, the US version of the Renault 5. It failed. The Le faced fierce competition from the Volkswagen Rabbit and Honda Civic, both known for durability and build quality. For a similar price, Americans could buy something far more dependable. Renault learned an important lesson. Shipping a European car unchanged was not enough. So in 1979, Renault bought a controlling stake in American Motors Corporation, AMC. The result was the Renault Alliance, an Americanized version of the Renault 9. At first, things looked promising. It even won Motor Trend Car of the Year in 1983. But the honeymoon didn't last. Poor build quality, brittle components, and electrical issues returned. Sales collapsed. When Chrysler bought AMC in 1987, Renault's American ambitions ended. They exited the US market for good. The final failure. Citroën had already left in 1974. Peugeot survived until 1991, but never reached profitability. High adaptation costs, weak dealer networks, and lingering reputation damage made staying impossible. Meanwhile, competitors flourished. Toyota and Honda dominated the compact market. Volkswagen became the affordable European option. BMW and Mercedes-Benz built luxury empires. The French withdrawal taught the industry a brutal lesson. The present and the Korean comparison. Today, Peugeot and Renault are part of Stellantis, the world's fourth largest automaker. Rumors of a US return surface occasionally, but nothing materializes. Why? Because rebuilding trust and infrastructure from scratch is enormously expensive. Stellantis already struggles with reliability issues at brands like Chrysler and Jeep. Renault made a smarter move elsewhere, investing in Nissan in the late 1990s, one of its most successful decisions. The contrast with Hyundai and Kia is striking. The Koreans arrived humbly. They learned, they adapted, they invested heavily in quality, technology, and perception. Today, their vehicles rival German brands in luxury, often with better reliability and value, something the French never achieved in America. This is more than a car story. It's a story of pride, ambition, and cultural misunderstanding. Because success in America was never about building the most sophisticated car. It was about understanding the customer. Perhaps the French didn't fail in the United States. Perhaps they never truly tried to adapt. In the end, the disappearance of French cars from American roads was not the result of bad engineering or a lack of creativity. It was the result of a mismatch. Different roads, different expectations, and a very different definition of reliability. French automakers built cars that were bold, innovative, and often far ahead of their time. But in the United States, innovation alone was never enough. What mattered most was durability, simplicity, and long-term trust. American drivers wanted cars that worked every day, anywhere, without question. And when French brands failed to adapt to those expectations, the market moved on without them. If you enjoyed this video and want more untold stories from the automotive world, hit the like button and subscribe to Car Wave. Your support helps us keep bringing you deeper stories behind the machines we drive. This is Car Wave, where every car has a story.